We should learn more this week about the Justice Department's civil rights case against 4 former Minneapolis police officers in the George Floyd case. A short time ago, I spoke to defense attorney and legal analyst Joe Tamburino about how incredibly unusual these federal charges are. And joining us now is criminal defense attorney and legal analyst Joe Tamburino. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Esme. Thanks for having me.
All right. Let's talk about this federal indictment because it is really unusual. It appears that the Justice Department is trying to do something relatively new here. Tell us about that.
Yes, you're quite right. They are trying to do something new. See, most of the time, almost every case that I know of on a criminal civil rights violation, also known legally as a deprivation of rights, 4 things have to be proven. Number 1, someone was denied their constitutional rights, due process, liberty. Number 2, the actor acted under color of law, meaning that they were a police officer. Number 3, there was harm. In this case, George Floyd died. And number 4 is that the officer had to have the specific intent not only to do the act, but to violate the person's constitutional rights. They have to have bad, specific intent. That's really it. And never have I seen a case where that bad intent is alleged to have occurred on the basis of a failure to act. That's really the heart of this.
The failure to provide medical aid. There are 2 counts here. One is failure to provide medical aid. The other is deprivation of civil rights in connection with the death. Is the Justice Department shooting for a wider interpretation of this existing law?
Yes, and I think it's going to be difficult to get around the specific intent portion. In federal court, there are a number of motions, and many times an attorney will make a 12B motion where they say, we want to dismiss this indictment because it doesn't state a claim. It's not specific enough. I would imagine that would happen in this case because I have never seen a case based on deprivation of rights on a failure to act. And at its heart, that's what they're alleging here.
Also unusual is that this indictment is coming before sentencing in the Chauvin case and also right before the trial of the 3 officers, these 3 other officers. That's coming up in August. That's an unusual move. What is it? Is the federal government concerned that on appeal the Chauvin verdict won't stand up or that there won't be a conviction with these 3 other ones? Why are we seeing this indictment right now?
I think it's highly unusual, and why it could be for all of those reasons. And think of it this way. In a deprivation of rights case where the victim dies, as in this case, there are no statutes of limitation. That means that a person, if they die because of a deprivation of rights, the federal government has limitless time to bring the charges. There are no statute of limitations that would limit this time period. So the federal government could easily have waited till Chauvin's case and the 3 co-defendants' cases are over because Mr. Chauvin's case technically is still open. He hasn't been sentenced yet.
Yeah. Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, called the Floyd family directly about this indictment and spoke to them at length about that. That has to be pretty unusual. Is this a sign that the federal Department of Justice under President Biden is really shifting into a different gear here when it comes to these kinds of cases?
Yes, absolutely true. And think of it this way. Right now, we do not have a U.S. attorney for the District of Minnesota. We have an acting U.S. attorney, but now the new president was sworn in on January 18th, and now we're into May, and we still don't have a U.S. attorney for our district. So it seems to be that everything is coming from Washington in this case, and of course funneling through the local authorities or the local district.
Does that make it more difficult for defense attorneys or easier for the prosecution when it's coming from outside? I would think that might be harder.
Actually, I think the reverse is going to be true. I think it's going to be easier because the 3 defense attorneys that are coming up with the 3 co-defendants in this case are extremely experienced in use of force and deprivation of rights cases. And I think when you have people who are in charge in D.C. and in Minneapolis, there could be some confusion. I mean, look at the way this indictment is right now. It's a very unique indictment. I'm sure the 3 defense attorneys, as they're reading this indictment, are thinking right now of how they can challenge it.
They absolutely are, I'm sure. Listen, Joe Tamburino, thank you so much, as always, for helping us decipher all of this. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you so much, Joe.